Hello. This is hopefully a quick reply to Anekantavad. Thank you for the response. Yeah, I was lying awake the other night. I'm a bit of an insomniac, and I was lying awake, and when you're in that kind of half asleep state, you know, you have all these kind of horrible thoughts come into your mind and torture you. And I started thinking whether I'd been really unfair, and because after all, you know, this chap had asked you what you thought of this term, depressive realism. And you know, you were just saying what you thought about it, and so I was thinking, well, you know, trying to sort of look into my motivations for doing the reply that I did. I was like, well, you know, maybe it's because after about 10 years of having conversations with people that I assume are like yourself, on various internet fora, you know, where whenever you start to discuss something that's remotely interesting to you, whenever the subject of reality comes up, people tend to, well, almost philosophy types will always start to invoke this reality thing, which really puts an end to the conversation, because, you know, once you start talking about that, then, you know, it's a conversation stopper. And so maybe I was projecting that onto you, and that under the circumstances that was kind of unfair. And then I got to think about, well, what is this problem? What is the nature of the disagreement between people who want to talk about stuff and others who want to talk about this reality thing? And I suppose the I have to admit my ignorance, in that when I saw the term depressive reality, the first time I saw that I've ever seen that term, I think, was in the title of your video. And I can kind of try to explain or reenact, I suppose, what my thought process or processes were when I first saw, you know, like any term that's unfamiliar to you, what you do. And so first of all, I guess I've never heard this before, and then I'll look at the words in the term depressive and reality, and I'll probably have some thoughts of my attachments to those words. So depressive, yeah, I think I've got an idea what that means to me, and then reality, I've got some idea of the concept of that, But depressive reality, no, I have not come across that before. Obviously, this is a term that's been created by somebody, and that this term means something to them, and so I would do what probably anybody would do, is go and look that term up, see what's been written about it, to see what they mean, because I can put those two words together and maybe make a guess as to what somebody else means by that, but you know, it would be a guess, and it could mean something entirely different to what I might come up with as a guess. I certainly know what it probably doesn't mean, or where that, you know, if I was to say, well, you know, it doesn't mean A, I could say that with some kind of certainty, or some kind of certainty that if I were to subsequently find out that it did mean A, then I'd be very, very surprised. But yeah, I'd go and look it up, and I wouldn't necessarily jump to conclusions as to what that term meant, or that term was what the I mean, it's obviously, well, it was obvious to me that this term was some kind of metaphor. Whenever anybody starts talking about reality, it's usually a metaphor. And so, yeah, so I was feeling a bit guilty, and then I saw your comment. I think your last comment to me was something like, well, yes, what this all kind of boils down to is that, you know, is an argument over metaphors. Now, that was kind of comforting in a way, in that, to me, in that I come to the same conclusion the night before as I was laying awake. But it in a way, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because I then became a little annoyed, because perhaps unjustifiably, but because I was kind of because then it turned out that my criticism of your posts on this matter weren't too far off the money, if not for the right reasons. Because what it hadn't occurred to me at all was what you were doing was you were taking this term depressive reality, knowing that this is some kind of, the reality part of it at least is some kind of metaphor. It's I'll put it. I'll leave. Sorry, I was going to say something else, but I'll leave that to a bit later. And then, so you've got this metaphor, this tag, this key. You know, it's a term, it's a heading. That's clearly sort of, you know, supposed to encapsulate some kind of idea or concept or whatever, and then you're kind of taking, I would say, you know, to use a term that you used earlier, a very, very uncharitable interpretation of that term to talk about the nature of reality, when clearly I think very few people would have confused that the metaphor as to being anything other than that, and that one would need to look up the definition of this term or whatever, and what people have written about it, to understand what the person who invented it meant. And so the upshot of this is that rather than talking about this concept, whether it's right, wrong, bullshit or whatever, how you would measure it, what are the confounding factors, what stuff do you have to control for, what does it mean, etc. That's what you would do with it, I think, is what you're saying, because you've now done four videos labelled, Depressive Reality, is to talk about the nature of reality, and not talk about this concept at all, and I don't know, I suppose that's fair enough, because that's what you want to talk about, but I'm not particularly interested. I've got no investment in talking about this depressive reality, whatever it is. But yeah, it just seems to be kind of emblematic of how these kind of conversations go, when we know that if there is we can take it as read that if there's a reality out there, that we're not going to be able to see it, we're not going to be able to compare any information or organisation of information that we come up with. We're not going to be able to compare it to that reality. So that reality is really off the table, and so when we talk about when we're talking about reality, we are talking about a metaphor. We're talking about the organisation of ideas and concepts and things, and those kinds of things, the stuff available to us, we are able to at least put into categories, and we are able to compare and contrast, and we can see that, well, if this bunch of ideas is true, then this bunch of ideas over here can't be true, and we can do that, and we can and that this that I'm sure whatever it is that this idea of depressive reality is, I'm sure it's just as accessible to that kind of a process as anything else. I mean, the analogy that I thought could come up with was, you know, we know what good driving is and bad driving is. We have driving instructors, and if you keep hitting the curb and running pedestrians over, then you're not going to pass your test. You know, we can put people in driving simulators and give one half of the subjects alcohol, and the other half we keep sober, and we can assess their driving ability, and we can assess their, I suppose, more relevant to this depressive reality thing, we can measure how well they think they're doing at driving, or whatever. And I suppose the thing is that so far none of that has been talked about, and it will never be talked about if you can't get over this stumbling block of whenever somebody, you know, throws the hand grenade in the room of, but what is reality? We never have, we never will know for sure with absolute certainty what reality is, and you know, there's no point in getting hung up about it.